Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Kira Davis, and you're watching The Orange Report. Bring on the sunshine. Welcome to The Orange Report. I'm your host, Kira Davis. Welcome to our weekly recap show. We've changed the format a little bit here, as you guys have already heard. We're moving back to a podcast format. That's what I'm most comfortable with, but we wanted to keep the traditional show as well. So we decided to do a week podcast format during the week. You can watch me live Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from X and YouTube and our Facebook page, or you can catch the replay later on in the day. And then on Fridays, we'll recap what we did all week long with a little extra for you as well. And today, I have an extra story about a race and an office here in Orange County that I think a lot of people don't understand, they don't know about, but it's really important. And we need to know what's going on because our tax dollars are at play here. And also, there might be some quid pro quo out there that voters need to at least be looking for and paying attention to. So all that and more on today's episode. Before we get started, though, I do want to encourage you, go follow us everywhere. Make sure you're following us on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, whatever platform gives you the most joy. We don't care as long as you follow us. But your follows do one of two things for us. They make us more visible to the algorithm, the algorithmic gods. They make us more visible, but they also help us spread these very important stories. We do this work for Orange County and for California. That's right. Here on the Orange Report, it is our commitment to bring you all the news and views you can use from around California and Orange County. We have so much going on. And we did a lot this week, so let's get started. One of our top stories this week was a story across the nation, but one that affects us here, of course, in California personally and in Orange County. And that story has to do with our esteemed Governor Gavin Newsom, who is nowhere to be found, seems to be missing in action. There's a lot going on here in California. I filled up my car today for over $6. So there's a lot going on in California, and Gavin Newsom's still on a book tour. That's interesting, isn't it? While you're suffering, trying to figure out how you're going to fill your gas tank. Well, here's something else that's interesting about Gavin Newsom, news we all discovered this week. He's decided to take $19 million, that's right, $19 million of your taxpayer money for a rehab tour. Gavin Newsom is trying to rehabilitate his image and the image of the state that he has completely ruined. Here's our report.
So let's cut to Gavin Newsom. He's spending $19 million on a PR campaign for California. This is outside of his book tour, by the way. This is outside of his book tour. All right, let me pull this up. Okay. This is from the California Globe. Rock star Katie Grimes. If you don't follow Katie Grimes on X or online anywhere, then you are not getting the California news. The California Globe is the leading cutting edge of real independent reporting in the state, and Katie Grimes is the best of the best. It's in its elite class up there, and it's mostly women. Susan Crabtree, Susan Shelley, Jennifer Van Laar. When I think about all of the biggest reporters in the state, they're women. Isn't that something? And they're good. They're good. They're not, DEI hires. They're good at what they do. So Katie Grimes writes this story. She wrote it yesterday. Newsom's planning a $19 million push to polish California's national image, the headline claims in a Los Angeles Times article. Here, let me fix that headline for you. Newsom is planning a $19 million push to polish his national image. Governor Gavin Newsom is launching a $19 million marketing campaign March 26th through December, approximately 9 months until the end of his term, to rewrite the history of his two calamitous terms as governor of California solely because he is running for president. My family and I moved here in 2009. Jerry Brown was the governor, and I can barely remember. I can barely remember that time. I feel like Gavin Newsom has been the governor my entire California life. That's how long his reign of terror has been. It covers everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a pall. It's a pall that just covers the entire state. let me go on. I want to talk about this, Paul, because we've got another story. I know you've seen Jennifer Siebel Newsom, his wife, the first partner. That's what we call her here. Libs of TikTok figured it out yesterday. They were so cute. They were like, what the hell is a first partner? Welcome to California, my friends. Exactly. If you don't want a first lady, first partner, help us get rid of Gavin Newsom now before he gets to you. I know it's crazy, but we've got stories about all of that corruption. And I just want everyone to know, we're really at the end of the line here in California. We've been so brainwashed into believing that this is how things are here, that things are just this way here. Even Republicans have been tricked into sort of just managing the decline. And that's a special kind of evil. It's a special kind of evil that these people are doing. I'm no longer willing to believe that Gavin Newsom is just a lonely, lost little boy with terrible self-esteem and some bad friends. I think he's evil. I think his wife is evil. The things that they would never accept for their own children, they're pushing on our children. That's evil. They don't vaccinate their kids, allegedly. It's sort of an open secret that the Newsoms are anti-vaxxers. But there are people who have never been rehired in the state government who got fired because they refused to take the COVID vax. They would never push that on their own kids. They would never force their kids to go to a public school in Los Angeles, but they want you to. They think you should. They think that's equity. They would never force one of their children to become the opposite gender. They would never allow their children to view porn, but they push that on our kids in school. I don't think we can look at these people anymore and say, well, they're just bad politicians, or they just think differently than us and they think wrong. I reject that. I used to think that. You can go back to Kira like pre-Charlie's death, pre-Charlie. That Kira might have said, I think we just have a lot of lost people and they need to be persuaded, and they need to be at least to be offered the truth. But I no longer believe this. This is deliberate. All of this that is happening in California, it is not the bug, it is the feature. Katie says, already other states are not only rejecting his politics, but the wrath of destruction in California as well. The campaign comes as Newsom's political future and national standing are closely tied to how voters view the state, the LA Times says. Critics warn the campaign could silence legitimate concerns about state policies they say make California difficult for business. And Katie adds, you don't say, which is what I was about to say as well. Oh, really? Yeah. The bottom line is California Governor Gavin Newsom is going to abscond with $19 million of taxpayer funds to pay for a PR campaign and advertisements to correct what he deems misinformation about California for his political campaign. He's been governor since 2019 and has had 7 years to try to clean up his act for a national audience. And at the last second, he's spending $19 million of your taxpayer money. You know what? Let's find out. Let's put a visual to this. I like to do this. Let's ask Grok. Grok, can you give me some examples of a visual or a representation of what $19 million looks like?
Sure. Picture this. 19 million bucks. If you stacked it in $100 bills, like actual crisp hundreds, it'd be a tower about 3 stories tall. Yeah, like you could climb it and still have room for a rooftop garden. Or, spread it out, you'd cover roughly half a basketball court, floor-to-ceiling cash carpet. And if you laid it flat in a single layer, well, you'd need a warehouse. Think, 25,000 square feet. That's bigger than most houses. Honestly, it looks ridiculous, like someone accidentally printed money instead of wallpaper. Want me to sketch it out in words some more?
We hardly hear from that guy anymore. Drop us a line next time you're in town, Gavin. All right, let's move on to our next story. Do you guys have kids in California public schools, or do you have friends or family with children in California public schools? You're going to want to hear this next story. Absolutely shocking. It's not shocking to me because I've been reporting on this for almost 10 years now, but a lot of our chickens are coming home to roost. Do you know that in California public schools right now, even here in Orange County with a conservative school board in Capistrano Unified, even with a conservative Republican school board here in Orange County and across the state, we have something called an identity support document. What is an identity support document? Gird your loins. An identity support document is a piece of paper that is held at your school or district offices privately. It's for your child to fill out if they would like to change their gender or change their records at school. And they don't even have to notify parents. There is an option on the form to notify parents, but they don't have to. And this questionnaire asks all kinds of very disturbing questions regarding what bathrooms they want to use, regarding genitals, regarding even their names. This is a document that could ostensibly allow your child to change their name in your official school portal so you won't even know as a parent. This is currently lurking in all of our California public schools. It's even lurking in our Orange County schools right here, right now. I invited parent activist Shan Kay onto the show to discuss what she's found. She's been working on this for over a year. It's actually taken her that long to dig up the proper documents because our school district, again, here in Capital Unified, I want to point out we have a conservative school board and still the school board and the school district have hidden these forms. And when we found them, when parent activists found them, they changed the name and hid them again. Again, I wish that I were joking, because all of you worked very hard to elect a Republican board. I promise you, stick around for this next segment. It's going to knock your socks off.
Now, not a lot of people know about this. I know Kira knows about this. I had to dig about this. The guidance, all it says is guidance. It doesn't tell you where that guidance has come from. School districts, all 976 school districts in California, including the districts that have parental notification policies in place, which there are less than 10. They have something called an identity support document. Now, this document, it came to our attention, we had a team, including Kira, of, we call us the school board mom team that we go to the school boards, and it got leaked to us, this document.
It got
And
leaked to us.
It got leaked to us.
And we're all public school parents. At that time, we all had children in public school, and it
Correct.
got leaked to us.
Right. It's not something that you can find on the district website. It's not a district policy. In fact, it was hidden in our district as an IEP, which is this is identity support document. It wasn't called that originally. It was called an IEP, which is actually a special ed term. So it had the same exact title as that. But this document, I actually had a meeting with the superintendent to ask where this document came from because it's not a policy. And I was told it was created by somebody within the district. So I did more digging and I came upon the CSBA, it's the School Board Association policy brief from February of 2014, which has a directive, basically, it's guidance for the school boards. But it is a privacy for transgender students. And basically, it goes on to say that students have control over the dissemination of their private information, including, they should not include gender identity to parents or guardians, and therefore school personnel are encouraged to be in regular contact with transgender students to ensure privacy. So
I want you to go back just before you go forward. Back up just a little bit, Shannon. Tell people what the original name was, because I want parents to understand this document can be hiding as a special ed support document.
Correct. In our district, in Capistrano Unified, it was called an IEP, which is an individualized educational plan. Now, special ed students have, if they qualify for an IEP, they have this plan. They were two completely different documents with the exception of the title. So now it has been switched out. It's called an identity support document. And it asks whole lot of questions of your students, but it doesn't, the worst part is that it doesn't require parental consent or knowledge. So, it will ask your student what their preferred name and pronouns are, what their birth sex was, whether or not their parents know about their gender identity. It gives them gender and pronoun options. And the worst part about it is it asks them their preferred restroom, their preferred locker room, their athletic team, and overnight trips. So, in other words, what cabin do you want to stay in, male or female, if you go on an overnight trip? And again, there is no parental consent or knowledge. So, for me, I went and I scheduled a meeting with our superintendent.
Our superintendent is Chris Brown, and our school district is Capistrano Unified School District in South Orange County.
Right. And it would have been great if he would have said this came from the School Board Association. It was guidance, but he really refused to give me any, hard information about it, with the exception of somebody in the district wrote it, because it's not a policy. So it exists. It's still, to this day, I just checked, it's still not on the website for the school, for the district. And parents have never been officially notified that this document exists.
Hang on, Shan. We do not have this document on our school district website, or our school board has not notified parents of this existence of this document at all.
Not that I'm aware of. And
so I have a national audience. There's people watching this from all over the country. Mm-hmm. I want everyone to, and they know that I ran for school board in 2022. They were with me. A lot of them donated. They took the whole journey with me. I want everybody to know that the school board we have right now is a conservative school board. It's a Republican school board, and they have not alerted parents of this identity support document that definitely exists, because Shan has backed it up and talked to the superintendent herself. We have the documents. I will include the documents all in the show notes as well. And then in the recorded version that you'll see later on YouTube, we'll make sure that these documents get up on the screen so you can see them for yourself. It's real. And we have elected a conservative board.
Correct. So, no, as far as I know, they have not ever alerted parents. And this is why it's so important that, parents wanted between this document and then another situation where a teacher in the beginning of the year in 2023, a teacher named Mr. Shepard asked 6th and 7th graders what their preferred name and pronoun were and whether or not he could tell their parents. So, of course, my phone was blowing up all day long. Kira and I got on the phone, the other moms got all together and, put something together, because that night we happened to be having our school board meeting, and run in there and asked for a parental notification policy to be put onto the agenda, because this happened.
You can follow Shan at CA Parents Rights Act Now. Yes, it's a long name. We were joking about that on the podcast. Back in the day when we were all getting new accounts and social media was new, we didn't really understand when we were picking our names. Doesn't matter though. She's been completely effective with that Instagram account, and it's really easy follow, and you'll get lots of information. Please go follow Shan on CA Parents Rights Act Now on Instagram, and stay tuned for the story. Shan's going to be back. It's not over. The story is not over. There are more meetings about this. There's more to come. And I want to thank Shan for stopping by as well. And I also want to remind you guys, you can see the entire interview by just going back to Tuesday show. Was that Tuesday show that we did that? Thursday show. All the days run together in California. It's one misery to the next. This is not my fault. Go to Thursday show. You can see the whole interview. But we were happy to play this clip here for you. All right, let's keep moving along. We're not leaving the Newsoms yet. We're not abandoning them yet, even though they've abandoned us. They've clearly abandoned us to run for president and first partner or whatever the heck it is that they're doing out there. And Gavin's got enough scandals of his own. I mean, we just saw a story about him paying $19 million of your taxpayer dollars to rehab his horrible image, not to rehab the state, right? Not to fix the state, to fix what he did, to fix your perception of what he did to the state. But Jennifer Siebel Newsom, his wife, is also getting in on the corruption game. And it's yet another national story. I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Newsom, but if you're going to put yourselves out there for national office, if you're going to get in the national game, you're going to get national attention. Here in California, the traditional California press has been very cooperative with you, we'll say. They've been in your pocket. They're basically state-run media at this point. You've had no pushback. You've had no challenges. You can lie and lie and lie. That's how Gavin Newsom can get on a show with Charlie Kirk and tell Charlie to his face, oh yeah, no, I totally think it's unfair for boys to play in girls' sports. And then the next day, go into somebody else's podcast and say, no, I always stand up for trans boys in girls' sports. That is the kind of person he is. And you can get away with that here, but you can't get away with that with a national audience. Everybody's on your case now. And so you're going to take what we serve up. And this week, the internet served up a very disturbing story about Jennifer Siebel Newsom's personal film company and a charity she runs for girls and women, ostensibly, and a film that she made called Misrepresentation, which tracks the increase of toxic masculinity in California and California public schools. And conveniently enough, after Jennifer's husband became governor, somehow her film was inserted into the public school classrooms here in California. And the film isn't just a feminist film. It's actually very perverse. It offers lessons on things like the genderbread person and things like that. These are part of the curriculum that Jennifer Siebel Newsom has successfully shoved into our schools. We did a report on it this week. Take a look.
All right, here's a story from California Post. Gavin Newsom's wife pushed weird gender films into California classrooms while paying herself a fortune. Again, these are things we've been reporting on here for years in California, but we didn't have a big outlet to help us amplify that story until the California Post showed up. So another reason to be grateful for them. It said, but that didn't happen purely because of talent. They're so snippy over there at the Post. Siebel Newsom leaned on her powerful hubby and his education board to push preachy flicks about toxic masculinity in the classrooms, casting her husband as an enlightened Democrat savior, all while raking in up to $300,000 annually through her profit, The Representation Project, and her for-profit outfit, Girls Club Entertainment. Girls Club Entertainment is the name of Jennifer Siebel Newsom's. I'm starting to pay attention to what people name their things. I never really did. I have not thought much about symbolism until maybe the last 5 or 10 years. And lately, though, I've been thinking a lot about paying attention to people when they name things, certain things. It's meaningful. There is power in a name. Right? That's why it was so powerful when God gave us his name, and the Jews still don't say it out loud, right? Like even for God to whisper his name, was so powerful, could kill the person that he was talking to. Like, there is power in a name. There is power in a name. I think there's something to be said that in the era of Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein and all of the disgusting, bizarre, horrific things we're seeing coming out in the files. I don't know why any of you I don't know why you're not talking about it, but I think it's just too much for people to absorb. But Think about all of that. All babies somebody's eating a baby right now out there, y'all. It's not, do you think because Jeffrey Epstein died that the network is gone? So I want you to think about all of that. And I want you to think about what Jennifer Siebel Newsom named her near pornographic for-profit business that accompanies her near pornographic not-for-profit business. She called it Girls Club Entertainment. Girls Club. Like, if I was a pedophile, I don't know. I guess she's got dubious ties to Harvey Weinstein. The first partner's not the best of the best, is what I'm saying. And I don't think that you should take. So I want you to keep in mind. I'm going to keep reading. I want you to keep in mind the name of this. It's Girls Club Entertainment. I don't think that's for nothing. What she's selling. And this is what she posts. I turned the lens on boys and men and looked at the boy crisis in America and how we're failing our boys and men with this sort of rigid notion of toxic masculinity. Right. She's not saying we're not giving our boys space to be masculine. She's saying the problem is toxic masculinity. Newsom is featured as a humble bragging talking head in Siebel Newsom's films Misrepresentation and The Great American Lie. Even the liberal New York Times called the latter film disingenuous because it's directed by the spouse of a top Democrat, but the relationship is never disclosed to the viewers. What's more, Newsom's own Department of Education shilled his wife's documentaries in official state guidelines after the Representation Project bragged in a 2014 tax filing that its films and curricula were used in 1,000 California public schools. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty sure that's illegal and impeachable. These people don't care. She's pushing this. Let's scroll down here to this graphic. The genderbread person. This is what her group, the Representation Project, that's the not-for-profit side of the Girls Club Entertainment. They push this lesson in the curriculum, and it's in 1,000 schools at least. It's in more. The genderbread person. It's pronounced metrosexual.com. This is what Jennifer Siebel Newsom, the first partner of a man who hopes to be the next president of the United States. This is what she's selling to your kids in your schools, and you're paying for it. And she's getting $300,000 a year to give it to your kids. Do you think her kids read this stuff? Gender identity. What is womanness? What is manness? Gender expression. What's biological sex? This is in elementary schools. Look right down there at the bottom, everybody. What does it say? Sexually attracted to males, females, or nobody. Romantically they divide sexual attraction and romantic attraction. That's the first lady of California, and she put that in your kid's school. It's in there right now. Your kids can look at that right now. Do you think that Jenny Newsom's kids are learning who they can be sexually attracted to at 6 years old? You tell me that this is just a big accident. You tell me that this is just rich people doing what rich people do. I refuse. It is not. This is on purpose. These people are evil. They would never sell their children this stuff. They would never, but they'll sell your children, and they'll sell my black children this, and then they'll look me, a black mother, in the eye and tell me that they're the only ones who care about my black family. No, hell no. I refuse. I won't be a part of this anymore. It's evil. The Newsoms are evil. Jennifer Newsom is evil because she's a mother. Like, it's something especially evil about a woman who pitches evil at your kids, right? A mother who pitches evil at your kids and then takes your money to do it. They're taking our money. She's walking around like she's an actual legitimate filmmaker because she's got film projects that are being screened at Democrat conventions and are being shoved down your kids' throats because of who her husband is. And she thinks she's a success. She looks down on you. How many of you are in LA right now struggling to make it in the film industry? And you're living, 4 people to an apartment, 5 people to a bedroom, and you're eating ramen noodles. Those people still exist, everybody. And you've got 5 jobs and you're covering different shifts all over the city, trying to make ends meet, hoping for your chance to be a part of this creative industry that defines our state. And Jen Siebel Newsom looks at you and laughs. She goes, what idiots. They actually think they're going to make it by working hard. This is how evil Gavin is. He'll look Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul. He'll look Charlie Kirk in the eye and say allowing boys to play in girls' sports is an issue of fundamental unfairness. And then in the very next breath, he will walk out that door and into someone else's office and tell them he will always stand for transgender boys and girls' sports.
Okay, little mea culpa here, everybody. Before we move forward, earlier this week in the show, I talked about our congressional race here in Orange County, in the south part of Orange County particularly. Jim Desmond, who's really a San Diego guy, but because our districts are so weird, he's also running in part of Orange County. Jim Desmond has been running in the 49th district, and we gave him our endorsement early as a party so that we could avoid other Republicans getting in the race and splitting the ticket. This is the problem with our jungle primary. We tried to find a way around it, but it's hard to find a way around people's own ideas and notions. And so Jim came up against some other Republican competition. Even with his endorsement, Star Parker out of San Clemente decided she was also going to launch for the 49th. And I told everybody I thought that was the wrong thing for her to do, no matter what her personal feelings are and no matter what kind of person she is, which I have no proof that she's nothing but a nice and good person. But I thought that was irresponsible of her. And so I asked everybody to black her out of the club system, of meetings, of fundraisers. However, the map has changed. Darrell Issa is retiring from Congress. He's not going to run again, and that district has been redrawn thanks to Gavin Newsom and the maps. The district's been redrawn, and so Jim now has decided to move over to the 48th. I know this is ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. This is happening in the months before primary, like just in a couple months before our June primaries, and we're doing all of this shuffling, and it does create chaos. And you're not supposed to have this chaos, everybody. We're not supposed to tolerate this. We're actually it's not legal to do this to us. It really is not. And someday I hope it gets sorted out. But it is not legal to change the maps and then make that next election run on the changed maps. They did that in my school board race in 2022. Only in 2022, the county registrar's office failed to print the new maps. So I had to run on old maps while my Democrat opponents ran on the proper maps. All kinds of shenanigans have been going on in Orange County for a long time. And that's why we have to be vigilant on our side. All this to say, Jim's no longer running in the 49th. He's moved over to the 48th. You can feel free to support Jim. I know the OCGOP thanks him for his willingness to run. And now Star Parker sits in the 48th along with one other Republican whom I don't know, because there is no OCGOP endorsement now in this race. We tried to do that early to avoid this kind of stuff so close to primaries. This is not Star's fault. This is not Star's fault. You can feel free to leave that in.
I'm gonna.
This is not Star's fault. This is Gavin Newsom's fault. This is the fault of the Democrats, but this is the way it is. And so I don't know how this is going to work out now. Now the gloves are off. It's not the case anymore. And just keep an eye on that race. So good luck to both the candidates. Okay. Do you know what your board of supervisors does? Every county has a board of supervisors. I think it's called a board of supervisors almost everywhere. One of the most infamous ones would be in LA County Board of Supervisors. That's whenever you see the fires or the floods or whatever nonsense is going on in LA, and the mayor's there, the police chief is there, and there's a bunch of women standing behind them. That's the LA County Board of Supervisors. It's a bunch of liberal women and Catherine Barger. So, do the math on that. I think you can maybe start to see why Los Angeles is such a mess. I do think we need more men in leadership. I'll just throw that out there. Okay. Our Board of Supervisors here in Orange County is the most powerful board. It's the most powerful governing body in our county. And for us, really, it has the most influence over us. Think about all of the regulations, all of the things that came down during COVID. Your businesses that got shuttered, kids not going to school, mask mandates, vax mandates, all of the ridiculous inspection quotas that came up, all of that stuff has to get run through Orange County Board of Supervisors. Even things like when to fly your flag, half mast, who we're going to honor with that, what kinds of flags. We tried to do something through the OC Board of Supervisors, trying to ban any flag on the desks except for the American flag. I don't know why we need a ban on that, because it should just be common sense. But some of our Orange County supervisors have other flags and represent other causes rather than the American people. The Board of Supervisors is the most important elected body right next to you. And it has the most control over your life. And it's the office that people think about the least. And here in Orange County in District 5, we have a representative who does not represent South Orange County. We didn't vote for her. We didn't want her. But because 3 Republicans, again, this is why we need to be cutthroat about this, and we need to be realistic. 3 Republicans who refused to do the right thing for the party and for the people of Orange County ran against Katrina Foley, split the majority Republican vote, and gave us a liberal, Democrat, progressive representative. And everything you see going on in this county that you hate, all of the stories that we do on this show about the TPUSA story, about how no one's addressed that yet, the violence against our kids in school, girls and their safety in their bathrooms at school, all of that runs through the Board of Supervisors, and you, Orange County, are represented by a liberal Democrat that you didn't choose. And part of that might be the typical electoral shenanigans, but part of that is because we couldn't get our act together when it counted. Now we have to go win this seat back. And there's a lot of people out here, particularly where I'm from, where I live, in Ladera Ranch and that area, there's a lot of people in particular who feel like this woman is not only not working for us, it feels like she's working us. You know what I mean? It feels like she's become, I don't know, like a de facto mayor, taxing us but not necessarily representing us. And if there's one last holdout in South Orange County, it's this Ladera Ranch, Rancho Mission Viejo community area that's largely red, very much plugged into their community, knows what's going on. And the Democrats have now split us. That's what they did with the Prop 50. We've got some of our Dana Point neighbors are voting with San Diegans. And they did that on purpose because we're such a solid voting bloc and we know what we want. Guys, it's war. It's war. And none of these little offices and stories are things you should leave behind. I want to read you this story because somebody sent me a letter last week and said, Kira, I've noticed something particularly interesting about Katrina Foley and her dealings, and I think people should look into this more. Now, I'm not an investigative reporter. I'm a podcaster. I'm a talker. But what he sent did raise some questions. So I want to talk about this. It matters to me. And it matters to me that we have a representative like Katrina who doesn't represent us and whom I did not choose. And whenever she shows up at our community forums, and by the way, she showed up at the Creek team. Creek team in San Juan Capistrano is dealing with the pesticides in the creek there. I'm hopefully going to have one of their guys on the show next week. She's been dealing with them too. And again, she's been letting our kids be poisoned for years now and has said nothing and done nothing. So stick around. We've got a lot of complaints about Katrina Foley. All right. A local resident shared a concern about his local chamber of commerce and the seemingly outsized influence Katrina Foley has over it. And why should this matter? The local chamber is the Ladera Rancho Chamber of Commerce, and it sits right in the middle of this very important electorate. And it's one that did not vote for Katrina Foley. So this anonymous community member sent me this letter titled Questions Raised Over Orange County Funding to Ladera Rancho Chamber of Commerce. And I think you should be particularly interested in this if you are a member of the Ladera Rancho Chamber of Commerce and you pay dues. I think you should go look up the budget. Everything's public records. I think you should look up the budget of the Ladera Rancho Chamber of Commerce. Start there. It's a pretty small budget, but there seem to be some questions about where all the budget is going. So if you pay dues to the Ladera Rancho Chamber of Commerce, I suggest you find the president and ask him for a detailed list of their expenditures, because community residents are raising questions about Orange County taxpayer funds provided to the Ladera Rancho Chamber of Commerce, citing the need for clearer documentation showing how the money was used and what measurable public benefit resulted. Orange County agenda records show that at the June 24, 2025 Board of Supervisors meeting, an item was approved allocating $25,000 from the 5th District, $25,000 from the 5th District discretionary funds to the Ladera Rancho Chamber of Commerce, described as support, to support small businesses and workforce development. I think if you are a business in Ladera, that might seem exciting, the county wanting to support the Chamber of Commerce to support businesses. How was the $25,000 used, this person asks, and what direct benefit did it produce for Ladera Ranch residents? And I want to emphasize here that this is not an accusation. I didn't take it as an accusation, but I did take it as asking questions. And I don't think a lot of us are asking enough questions. We just sort of think these things are sort of on autopilot, right? We just think, okay, the chamber's working, the Board of Supervisors, all these people who call themselves our government, they're working and exchanging money, and obviously it's working for us. But how do you know it's working for you if you don't know, if you don't ask? And we think $25,000 might be a very small amount, but what would you do with $25,000? You know, if I gave you $25,000 tomorrow for your business or for your project or your group, what would you do with it? That is actually a lot of money. And it's particularly a lot of money when you're talking about people's businesses and money that comes from the taxpayers to somehow go back into the community. Why can't that money just stay in your pocket? Why does it have to go through a third party? And what happens when it goes through the third party? The third party is required by law to have documentation of what is being done with our tax dollars. And I think that's what this person is asking. Why is Katrina Foley providing $25,000 when seemingly there is no recorded documentation of what this money was spent on? I'll continue. This is a standard public accountability inquiry whenever taxpayer money is directed to a private organization. We want a 5-year accounting of public funds. A $25,000 allocation raises broader concerns that we think the public should be able to determine. How much taxpayer funding has the chamber received over the last 5 years? I think that's a fair question. I don't even think that's a shady or weird or underhanded question. And maybe there is a legitimate, explainable answer to it. I do think that the parties involved deserve the opportunity to give us that explanation. What agencies or offices provided that funding? What restrictions or deliverables were tied to it? What measurable outcomes were delivered? Again, if you're a business owner in Ladera Ranch and you have been contributing a fee to the Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Commerces are great, they're very important, but if you've been contributing a fee, you have the right to know. Your fees are supposed to pay for all of that, so you have the right to know what your fees are doing. And you should ask. I think a lot of people join the chamber and they just think maybe I'm just there to be on the website. And maybe that's all it is. You should just ask. What else are you getting for the money? But then that's your $25,000 is the money that's being sucked out of your business to go to Katrina's office first so that she can send it back through a third party to get to you. I think that's a ridiculous process in the first place. My libertarian brain goes nuts when I hear that. However, that part of it aside, don't you want to at least know what the money was for? And was it successful? Was it a successful use of your tax dollars? Residents also point to the publicly available nonprofit tax filings, suggesting the chamber may have received government-related income in other years that still has not been listed. The chamber does report some other public filings. These are all publicly available documents, and we're going to talk about this next week. And next week I'm going to actually dig through some of these documents, and we're going to go line by line, and we're going to find out if there is any reporting on this $25,000 to the Ladero Rancho Chamber of Commerce. I want you to stay tuned to this account and this show. Make sure you follow it. And next week, I'm going to have actual documentation for you. But I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to show you anything that you can't go on public records and find for yourself right now. And let me challenge you to be curious. Be curious, because Katrina Foley is ostensibly the mayor of your area. And so she should be working for you. Instead of handing out money, we've watched all this fraud get uncovered here in California, right? Nick Shirley's been up and down the state. God bless him. Pray for him. Pray for him. We've hospice care fraud in LA, school fraud, daycare fraud. Don't even get me started on election fraud, right? California is the home of fraud. And if we've learned anything, it's that the worst fraud starts the closest to you. People, before I close this show out, let me admonish you to know what's going on in your local government. We have done this weird flippity-flop, where it used to be that you would really be involved in your town councils and what's going on in your town, and then what was going on at the federal level was sort of the 30,000-foot view. That was for those people over there, but people were really involved in what was going on in our town. And somewhere along the way, someone told us that the most important person in your life is the president. Probably a Democrat told us that, because they get really mad when we have Republican presidents, and they hate local government because local government is freedom. Local government is liberty. So they've managed to convince us all that the person we should be most concerned with is the president of the United States. And I'm here to tell you that is an absolute lie. That is a falsity. The person you should be most concerned with is the person who's running the government closest to you. Donald Trump did not shut down your schools. Katrina Foley and the Orange County Board of Supervisors and the health department did, right? Donald Trump doesn't let boys play in your girls' sports. Katrina Foley and those people approve of that. Donald Trump doesn't let dogs vote on your voter rolls. Katrina Foley does. You know, these are the things that affect you up close to a little $25,000 grant between a supervisor who hates the community she's representing and a chamber of commerce who is supposed to be representing that very community. Yeah, it does matter if you know where that money is going, because that's how fraud starts. And when you get away with one thing, you might get away with more. We would like to know where this money is going, but so far there is no documentation on record as to what the Ladera Ranch Chamber of Commerce has spent the money on. What are the direct deliverables? What has Katrina Foley accomplished by giving $25,000 of your tax dollars to this Chamber of Commerce? And you should ask yourself that. And if you're a member of the chamber, I want you to go look at the budget and all our publicly available records. All of them are. Go look at the budget. Go look at the expenses and ask yourself if you're getting the type of service that a Katrina Foley is supposedly delivering through this business entity with a grant like that. We're just asking questions here. If you have Katrina Foley tips, or if you've had an experience with some kind of fraud in our county and the government, let me know. Drop it in the comments, send us a tip. That's how I got this tip. And guess what? I've got like 4 more in my inbox right now. So we're going to have some fun. Vote for Diane Dixon. Diane Dixon is running to take back this seat. She's running as a Republican. Diane Dixon is an experienced assemblywoman right now. Go to her Instagram. She's got a great Instagram. She's talking a lot about the fraud. That's why this matters. She's talking about the fraud. You need to get out there and fight for your county. No one else is going to do it for you, Orange County. California, no one's coming to save us. If you go back and listen to that interview with Shan, that's what you're going to hear. No one's coming to save us. We're the cavalry. We're the only people who are going to do this. And fine, that's fine and good. We're the only people who love this place. We're the only people who call it home. Why shouldn't we defend it with the last of our breath? Thank you for joining us this week. Don't forget to sign up everywhere. Go subscribe everywhere. If you have a tip, send it to our email account. You can donate to our Give, Send, Go if you like what you're seeing here and you want to see more of it. You want to see us get out there more in the community. And make sure that you are paying attention to the government closest to you. Your city government, your county government, and your state government. Those are the people who have the most control over your life. And in way too many circumstances in the state of California, those are the people who hate you. But I don't hate you, California. I love you, and that's why I'm fighting for you. I'm Kira Davis. This has been the Orange Report. Bring on the sunshine.